Hey cats, what's happening? Did you ever have one of those friends that's, well, let's say, more of a leech on than he is a friend? You know, maybe somebody that for some reason gravitated towards you and, they're always kind of a pain in the neck. You might not really consider them to be a friend as much as they consider you to be their friend. Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about this guy today, and this goes back years ago, but it's a good story nonetheless. Ted was a cop that I knew, and he really seemed to like me a lot. And back then, I was pretty heavy into the partying scene. You know, I drank a lot, and I think that's what Ted and I had in common. He liked to drink, and I liked to drink. So, end of story there. Well, Ted would always come over to my house or call me constantly. And, I had a job. I worked full time, had a family, and, when I had a chance, I'd party, I'd drink, smoke weed. And Ted knew that, so whenever I'd get home from work, I'd either get a phone call from him or a knock on the door, and Ted was there. His drinking habits were so much that, the first thing on his mind when he walked in the door is, hey, you got a beer? Yeah, I got a beer. I'd go in the refrigerator and take out a can of beer and hand it to him. And we'd go into the living room or out on the front porch. He would consume his beer pretty quickly, and then he would ask to use the restroom. Well, I kind of knew his game. I didn't really hound him or follow him, but I knew what was going on. He'd make his way back into the kitchen, throw his empty can away, go in the refrigerator, take out another can. I'd hear the and he would chug that one, throw that away, and then get the third can of beer, open it, and come walking back out. Hey, I went ahead and got myself another beer. I hope you don't mind. I never said anything, but I knew he took more than one beer. That's just the way he was. He was an alcoholic. He was a drinker. And at that point in his life, I guess it didn't matter to him who he stepped on as long as he got his alcohol. He came over one day and he says, come here, I got to show you something. And I said, I'm busy. No, come here, come on outside. I got to show you something. Come on outside. So I went outside and he points to his car. Well, his car has like 6 bullet holes in the door. I'm like, what the heck, dude? Well, he took out his service weapon and just pow, 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 pow. Shot right through his car. What was the sense in that? And I do think he got reprimanded for that, because eventually it was found out that, of course, here's his car sitting in a parking lot at work with bullet holes in it, and somebody wanted to have some answers. And it eventually came out that he had used his service weapon and he just shot holes in his car. That's the way he was, though. Always managed to stay out of big trouble, but his drinking got him in more trouble. So one day I come home from work and I get a phone call, and it's Ted, and he wants me to come over. And I said, no, Ted, I says, I'm really busy today. I just got home from work. I got the kids here and stuff, and I can't. No, he says, you got to come over. You got to come over. Yeah, I really need your help. I'm working on my car, and I've got to have some help. I said, oh, come on, man. I don't have time for this, Well, I got my car up on the jacks, and he says, I'm putting brakes on, and I need somebody to just push the brake pedal and bleed the brakes off. And I says, well, isn't your wife there? Can't she do it for you? He says, well, she's tied up at the time. So just come on over and give me a hand. Okay. I says, but if I come over, it's going to be quick. I'm just going to come over there, do what I need to do, and then I got to get back home. I'm not playing around. Fine, fine, just come on over. Just come on over. So I jump on a bike and I head over there and I pull up, park in the driveway, and I barely had the kickstand down. He comes out and he's got a cold beer in his hand for me. I says, Ted, I really don't want a beer. I'm just going to bleed your brakes and I got to head back home. No, come on, come on. He's shoving the beer in my hand. I don't even think I drank the beer. We go into his garage and sure enough his car's up on the jacks there. And I said, all right, what are we going to... He said, wait a minute. Come on in the house. I got to show you something. Come on in the house. I got to show you something. I don't have time for this. Come on. No, come on. It's only going to take a second. Come on in the house. So I go in his house. We walk in through the kitchen. I think I set the beer down on the counter because I didn't want the beer. And he leads me into the living room. And there, lo and behold, is his poor wife duct taped to a rocking chair in the middle of the living room. And she is pretty much trapped there, can't move. Her legs and her arms are duct taped to the rocking chair, and she's got duct tape on her mouth, and she's obviously angry, very angry. I was just totally like in disbelief, and of course my very immediate reaction is to get her loose. So I took the duct tape off of her. I got her wrist free and got her legs undone, and she bolted out the door, got in her car and left like immediately. Well, I wasn't about to hang around there. I was done, and as I started to turn and head back out, Ted took his baton. He had one of these PR-24, like a nightstick with a handle on the side, and he just went to town on that. And this was a nice rocking chair. He busted it to splinters with that PR-24. He just took that baton and he just smashed that thing into shreds. Well, I was out the door. I thought, no, I'm heading home. I'm not going to put up with this. I'm heading home. And I jumped on the bike, fired it up. Before I could turn around and get out of the driveway, here comes Ted. And he's got his baton in his hand, and he's crazy, and he's coming after me with his baton, like he's going to beat me with the thing. Well, I freaked out, and I just took off. I thought, no, I'm not dealing with this psycho. I'm out of here. And I did. I took off. And as I'm going, I pulled out of his driveway, and he runs across the lawn, and he throws his baton at me. And luckily he missed me. It landed on the road behind me, and I just kept going. Well, I got home and went in the house, and I bet you it wasn't even like 15 minutes. And there's a pounding on the door. So I go and answer the door, and it's Ted. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And he's pushing his way in. Well, he comes into my living room, and right away he starts like coming at me. I wasn't about to put up with his drunken antics, and I threw him across the living room. He went over to the coffee table and smashed right into my stereo speakers, knocked them over. He got back up, came at me again, and I just grabbed him and threw him right out through the front door, and he went right through the screen door. I mean, he tore the screen door right off the hinges there, and he went on his tail out on the sidewalk. I just pulled the door shut, locked it, and I think for the next 15 minutes he stood outside pounding on my door begging for forgiveness, but I was done. I'd put up with enough of his antics, and that was the end of that. I never did see him much after that. I wouldn't answer his phone calls. I knew the guy had a problem, but I wasn't the one to fix it for him. He needed some serious help, and I wasn't the one that was going to be able to do that. I never did hang around with him after that. it was just too much of a burden. But that was the story about Ted. And if I had to guess today, I'd say he probably has straightened his act out. I've only heard little bits and pieces here and there from time to time, but it sounds to me like he kind of turned himself around and got his act together. I couldn't tell if he's still married or not. I would tend to doubt that, but you never know. All right, well, there's my story today. One of my cop stories. Guy that was a real thorn in my side. I will continue to entertain you. I always got another story up my sleeve somewhere. I dig them out of the deepest depths of my memories. They're all there. And unfortunately, they're all true. So until next time, guys, I will catch you later.